City, a little town where I'm from, where everybody's southern raised, just as good as they come. Backwoods and Macioke and mud holes, and back then we only ate what the farm grow. Man, I miss some days how we played on them dirt roads, and out of towners came with respect, cause they know we all close. Yeah, Southern pride, towing gun folks. Welcome to my city, I-75 South, just north of Live Oak.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, backwoods when they ride. This is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, kind of town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
It's nothing like our dirt roads, you can bet that, son. I'm from a city, by any means, we gon' protect our guns. I hang with the rednecks and geekies. We get up in big trucks in the backwoods like Indians and teepees. This the home of the mighty, mighty Vikings. Wildcats, blazing, Titletown license. Winners, pretty girls with country grammar. When I say about Austin, Georgia, I ain't talking about Atlanta. This a different type of city, where the woods are pretty, but get gritty. You hear me? What you know about that 229? You can find us on the Florida, Georgia line, where I reside.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, backwoods when they ride. This is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, kind of town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey. Moonshine and whiskey.
Some folks really don't understand how important it is and never forget where you came from. You know, when I say Lowndes County, man, I mean Lowndes County.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, backwoods when they ride. This is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
What's up, all you sports fans all across Titletown and all across the nation? It's Thursday night. It's almost the end of the week, and you guys know what time it is. It's time for the nation, the Viking Nation Live. If you're new to the program, welcome aboard. What you're going to find here, and the regulars have probably memorized this spiel by now. What you're going to find here is a collection of very passionate high school football fans with a touch of crazy. And if you tune into this show long enough, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. So if that appeals to you, we are the show for you. So welcome to the nation. Superfans are going to join us a little bit later on tonight in a little bit. Getting updates on the Valdosta Lowndes middle school game. And it's a close one, but I don't know if our boys can pull it out. Chase Garnto is on site, and he's giving me play-by-play. A couple minutes left in the game, it looks like, and Valdosta just picked it off. So I don't know how. Not looking good for the good guys. So anyway, hopefully our super fans going to be joining us in a little bit. And so we're still going to have a good show tonight. Invite you to call in to the program and check us out. If you would like to give us a call, number is, what is the number? It has been a long week. I'll put the number on the screen. Call in line is 229-469-1205 if you would like to call in and give us your opinion. Last week, when we put the number up there, going into the Manatee game, we were pleasantly surprised that we had a whole lot of Manatee football fans checking out the show last week. And one of their guys, their radio guy, turns out to be a Board of Education member too down there. but their radio guy, Chad Shote, called in. We had a nice little chat about the upcoming game. And we all saw how it turned out. So we'll get into review of the Lowndes Manatee game. Was it a big win? Did it live up to the hype? Did it finally show us all what the mighty Lowndes Vikings football team is all about this year? So we're going to get into all that. So before we do that, last week we talked about a comparison among the different regions. Okay, and one in particular was a comparison between Region 1 6A and Region 2 5A. And we talked about it in a different kind of context as far as scheduling goes, trying to fix the non-region scheduling that all coaches complain about. So we thought we'd help them out a little bit. Now, that kind of spurred a discussion after the show. And so we had a request by one of our viewers, longtime Lowndes fan, and you guys know him. You probably know him, JB Wilson. He had a request, and it was a pretty good request, really. And so that request was, let me put that up on the screen. So if you'll remember, last week we talked about these two regions, right? Camden, Colquitt, Lowndes, Richmond Hill, Tift, and Valdosta in one region. Coffee, Houston, Lee, Northside, TCC, and Veterans in another region. Now, obviously, the Coffee and Houston region is a lower classification, Class 5A instead of our 6A. So the request from JB was, if these two regions were combined, how would you rank the teams? Which teams would be better? So how would you do it? If you had these 12 teams on the screen, well, congratulations, Armand. Yeah, Armand's going to join us in a few minutes. He's closing a deal, wrapping up. He's looking in the car business. He just sent me a text. Yeah, he's going to be on. Just sold a car. So congratulations. If you need a car, check out Armand Rashad down at the, I think it's Langdale Kia on Ashley Street. So congratulations. He'll be on in a few minutes. So how would you, JB, if you're watching, especially, you had this interesting request. So how would you rank these teams? So I'll tell you how I would rank it. Now, this is how Max Preps has these teams ranked in their individual classifications. Okay. So in 6A, they've got Colquitt ranked at number 9, Valdosta at 10, Camden at 12, Richmond Hill at 13, our Lowndes Vikings at 14, and Tift is not rated or not ranked. Now, in Class 5A, they've got Thomas County Central at number 2. That's pretty impressive, number 2 in the state. Coffee, number 3. Lee County, number 4. Houston, 10. Northside, Warner Robins, and Veterans not ranked. So what would you do if you had to combine all 12 of these teams together? This is how I would rank it. TCC would be the top ranked team if these two regions, and that is in current day, present day, not historical, that kind of stuff, just present day. I would rank Coffee as number 2 in the region, Colquitt number 3, Lee County number 4. Now, it's going to be interesting. Lee and Colquitt actually play each other, I believe, tomorrow night, I think. So they're going to answer that question. These two teams, I think, are very, very similar. So I can see those as interchangeable, 3 and 4. But currently I have Colquitt 3, Lee County 4, Valdosta 5. I rank Lowndes as 6, Houston 7, Camden 8, Richmond Hill 9, Northside Warner Robins 10, Veterans 11, and Tift County at 12. Dang it. So Valdosta just ran a trick play. They scored on it, and now they're up on our middle school Vikings 20-8. Not looking good with very, very little bit of time left in that game. Thanks, Chase, for those updates. Okay, so how would you rank it? Does anyone blame me if I rank Thomas County Central number 1? I mean, they are the defending champs in that classification, right? And so they lead a pretty powerhouse region over there. It'd be really cool to check out. All right, so speaking of our super fans, Armand's going to join us in a few minutes. And, last week we were having a little bit of fun. don't worry, we're going to get into the Lounge football talk here in a second. But last week we were having a little bit of fun with AI software. I got bored one weekend and started playing around with AI software, generated a bunch of images, including videos. So we introduced a segment last week to talk about our super fans and how they would look in different periods, different eras, if you will. And these are the two gentlemen that you normally see on the screen with me, Chase on the left, Armand Rashad on the right, and what they would look like if they passed through the AI filter, right? Some strikingly handsome men there. So what we decided to do was create another segment to the show until we run out of AI ideas. And so this week we're picking on Chase a little bit. And so what I did, what I did was I took his photo and let the software just run crazy and see what he would look like in each era starting in 1920s, what he would look like in the 1920s all the way up to the present day. So this is what Chase would look like. 1920s Chase, 1930, 1940. That hair. Oh my gosh. Y'all don't tell him I did this. I'm only picking on him because he's not on the screen yet. I told you we're a little touch of crazy here. Just a little touch of crazy. So Chase, that's what you get for not being on the screen when you're supposed to be on the screen. All right, so let's get into the football talk. This is what you guys tune in for. So Lowndes is currently 4-0. How good can Lowndes be this year? That was the question I here putting some laughing emojis on the screen. That was the question we asked several weeks ago. And quite frankly, we took some heat for it. Some of our fans disagreed with us, just gave some honest opinion. And that was the question that we asked several weeks ago. How good can this Lowndes team be? And so after 4 games, have we answered the question? How good can we be? So early in the season, well, actually before the season started, I don't know if you recall this, in the I guess in the summertime leading up to it. Yeah, Jeff Fulp says you won't know until region play. Jeff, I mean, you're spot on, man. That's really the only time that really counts. But the question is, have the games that we played so far given us an indication of how good we could be? Now, in the off season, several shows, and I did this for several shows in a row leading up to the regular season. I made this statement early on. I think it was in either June or July. Could have been all the way back in the spring when we had the spring game in May. I know I made this statement several times, and I got ridiculed for it. And that was at the time, Lowndes is going to be 5-0 heading into region play. As a matter of fact, after region play, I predicted several times that Lowndes is going to play Valdosta for the region championship in the last regular season game of the year. And this year's Wintersville Classic there at Martin Stadium. I still stand by that. And so tomorrow night we'll complete that first prediction of Lowndes being undefeated, 5-0, going into region play. And some people would argue, and probably rightfully so, that a big reason why we're going to be 5-0 is those first 3 games in particular are against nobodies. And that's true. If we're completely honest, that's true. Okay. So given that backdrop, and given how well we performed against Manatee last week, and Manatee is a high-quality team. They are. I think they were ranked number 7 in their classification, and I think they're a Class 5A in the state of Florida. Ranked number 7 in that classification, going into that game last week, 2-0 against Lowndes. And you saw them. They had some talent. They had a very, very talented team. Their offensive line was not massive, but they had good size. They were not incredibly athletic offensive linemen, but they were adequate. And so that's what we saw. As a matter of fact, they gave us a pretty good challenge for at least a half of football, right? Before we started to wear them down, I think, with our athleticism and our athletes. So how good can this Lowndes team be? So tomorrow night presents a different type of challenge with the Cal Longhorns coming into Martin Stadium. Now, Cal is another high quality opponent. Oh, by the way, somebody asked me how big of a school is Manatee? Manatee High School has about 2,000 kids in it. So if they were in the state of Georgia, remember they're in class 5A in Florida, and Florida has 7 classes like we used to. So they have about 2,000 students. So if you took those 2,000 students and put them in high school in the state of Georgia, they would currently be class 5A here, and we have 6 classes. So they would just like, they would be one class below, kind of, well, not kind of, just like Lee and Thomas County Central and Coffee County. So that gives you a pretty good idea of the matchup that we had last week. It was not like we played like our first a couple of opponents where they were 3A schools, right? So I'm telling you that to give you an idea that Manatee was a very legit school, a very worthy opponent. And they gave us fits, at least for one half. And that's exactly what we were looking for. So going into tomorrow night's game is going to present a different type of challenge because Cal is another 5. No, I believe are they a 4A school? I think Cal is a 4A school in the state of Georgia. You know, I had this right on the tip of my tongue just last night because I was going through rehearsals for this show tonight, and just dadgummit, I believe that's right. I think they're a 4A team. Yeah, they're in Region 6 4A. That's right. Gene to Temple, you want calling them nobodies. Let's hope they are not in here again. Gene, I don't understand. Who are we talking about? Who are we calling nobodies? Now, I did call the first couple of opponents nobodies. But Manatee was a legit school. And remember, those first 3 games were what? You had the first 2 games, Jenkins, and I can't even remember the second game. Jenkins, and then the third game was Central Gwinnett. And we got to admit, those first 3 games were nobodies. Okay, here it is right here, schedule. All right, so the first Jenkins, Mount Zion. No, I didn't say the first 4 teams. If I did say the first 4 teams, I didn't. That was just me misspeaking because just went on and on about Manatee, how much of a quality school they were. Now, the first 3 games were against nobodies. They were. You had Jenkins, Mount Zion, and Central Gwinnett. Absolute nobodies. Now, I'm not. When I use the word nobody in the football context, we're not talking about just making a disparaging remark against a person. We're talking about the quality of football that they present. That's what we're talking about. So if you prefer to use the word cupcake or, whatever adjective you want to use there, or noun, I should say. So you get the idea of what I'm talking about. So the first 3 games, Jenkins, Mount Zion, and Central Gwinnett, nobodies, cupcakes. Manatee, high quality team. Now, Cal is going to be another high quality team. Okay. So we're going to get into that kind of discussion tonight. And before we do all that, we're going to get into some of the stats from last week. Did it surprise you at all about that game? You know, it was kind of a muggy night, humid. It was testing both teams' endurance. You know, we had several players to cramp up, that kind of stuff. And so I was kind of surprised about a handful of our players cramping. I mean, that is to be expected on a humid night like that, right? But it was kind of not a soggy night. We were expecting a lot of rain, but you could tell that it was having an effect on the football. That ball was a little slick. I think both teams tried to throw it. Lowndes, I think, figured out early on that it's going to be a slick ball, didn't throw it very much. Manatee tried to throw it a little bit more. They had a couple of long balls that really should have been caught, but I don't know if the ball was slick, but it just wasn't caught for whatever reason. So we'll get into some of those stats tonight as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into, let's see, refer to my notes here. Oh yeah. The stats after that game. Let's see. Pull up these stats right here. Okay, so here are the stats from last week. So we had we threw the ball 11 times, completed 6 of them. Right now, on a soggy night, having a completion percentage over 50%, I can live with that. Because going into that game, we had 64, 89, 85% completion rates. And then last week we dipped down into 55%. On a soggy night, when you don't throw it that much, ball slick, you can live with that. So we feasted on the ground, though, had 33 carries for 320 yards. And how about that performance by the dynamic duo, Aleem Brown and Marvis Parrish? What do you think about those guys coming into their own? It just seems like those two cats are hit. I got to stop saying cats, especially when we're referring to slang, right? Those two Vikes, I should say, had stellar performances, didn't they? Very, very stellar performances. Excuse me for pausing. Nathan Lincoln just posted a question. Does anyone think that? All right, so Nathan's referring to personal foul penalty on a punt return. Does anyone think that hit on the punter at the end that player should be gone for the rest of the year? That was ridiculous and uncalled for. That's a tough question. Nathan, I don't know about the entire year. Flagrant, it did look flagrant. I can't say that for sure. I was on the other end of the field, but it did look flagrant. Now, the only justification, I suppose, would be he didn't see the fair catch signal by our punt returner. That's the only thing that I can think of that could justify, or it could at least lend some type of defense. I think it's a very thin excuse, if you will. Clearly, fair catch sign was shown, and even if he didn't see it, you at least wait on the ball to show up, right? So that was a brutal hit, and it almost erupted into something ugly. So kudos to Coach Carter, the coaching staff, for realizing immediately what could have happened. And you saw coaches sprinting onto the field, keeping players back, calming things down, that kind of stuff. So heads up on our head coach and our coaching staff for recognizing what was going on at that time. I think you'd agree with that, Nathan. So anyway, it could have gotten ugly real quick. It kind of reminds me several years ago when Lowndes went up to Grayson in the, I think, second round of the playoffs several years ago. Was it 2008? Shoot, man, 15 years ago, something like that. And something similar, late hit. Well, I don't even know what was the late. I can't remember the catalyst behind that. But you had benches clearing, and it got ugly that night. And so it was good to see coaches really on top of things last night to prevent something from really getting out of hand, escalating badly. They were playing mad because of losing to a better team. Could be, David, could be. You never know how players, high school kids are going to react when you get down like that. Okay. We were talking about Armand and Chase and I were talking close to the end of the game last week about this and other things. And I made a point. I said, listen, when you're down a score, you can live with it. When you're down 2 scores as an opposing player that is on the losing side, if you're down 2 scores, you can still live with it, because if you score, you realize mentally you're only down 1 score. You're still in the game. But man, once you go down 3 scores, it's like a mental hurdle. A giant hurdle to overcome. It's almost a backbreaker. We've seen teams overcome 3-score deficits before, but when you get down 3 scores, that's almost a backbreaker. And then all of a sudden you realize it's almost impossible to come back, and sometimes you lose your head. And I'm hoping that's all it was. Emotions running high, that kind of stuff. Candace says, I'm late, but I'm here. I wish they would jump in here again. I got a few things to say about how classless they were. Well, Candace, we were just addressing all that. And so hopefully as a coaching staff, you see something like that, you address it with your players, you learn from it, you coach them up so they don't do that again, that kind of stuff. So that's what you hope happens, right? Let's see. Their sideline was a mess. I think the player and a coach got into it. They kicked him out, but put him back in the game too. I didn't notice that. If that's true, man, it's kind of hard to. I don't know what to think about that. All right, so let's focus on the results of the game and the stats in particular, because that's going to lead into our discussion against Kel this week, which is Kel is going to present a different set of problems, because we're facing a team that on the offensive line is a little bit bigger. From what I've seen on videos and highlights and game film, that kind of stuff, Kel seems to be bigger and more athletic on the offensive front. So that's going to present a little bit more of a challenge for us when it comes to the run game, because make no mistake about it, Kel is a run-first team. And so it's going to stress our front seven tomorrow night. And so do we have a front six in the 3-3 stack? I'm used to saying front seven, but maybe it's a front six with a 3-3 stack. Okay, so we had 33 rushing attempts for 320 yards. Let's see. All total yards, 347. We didn't have very many passing yards last week. Like I said, we only had 11 attempts, mostly short passes. Now, we did complete some pretty good passes in clutch situations. And so, but at the end of the night, had 27 yards. So that gives us a total of 1,675 yards on the season. After 4 games, that's not bad. Not bad at all. So you're averaging about 400 yards a game. Our low was against Central Gwinnett just because we kept getting the ball on a short side of the field because of our stellar defense that night. And so that was the low offensive production at 276 for the game. The high was against Mount Zion at 577. So we're averaging roughly about 400 yards a game. Candace says, I sit on the visitor side. I know, Candace. I know. I know. Candace says their photographer uploaded pics taking crap, saying hit him so hard, made his mouthpiece fall out. Yeah, I read some of the comments their photographer made on his was it his Facebook or Smug Mug page or site or something like that. And some of the comments that he made were, I wouldn't have made them. I do a lot of photography myself. And so when we're down there on the field, you got to be very aware of what you say before and after the game. Because even if you're not directly affiliated, you do kind of represent the school, right? And I'm aware of what I say. I indirectly represent the school. So that's why I'm very careful to get on here and trash talk other teams and other programs. I'm just not going to do it. So I was very surprised by, to your point, Candace, I was very surprised by some of the comments that he did. I wouldn't have done it. I hope that he took them down, because some of it was kind of hard to read. So anyway, let's see. David Griff says he should have been suspended for 2 games. Could be. I get that. I understand where you're coming from. All right. So defense made me proud. Boys stood tall. Candace, you bring a good point up. Let me talk about the defense for a second. So it's no secret that we're not fans of the 3-3 stack. But to the credit of the defense, it appears like they are starting to master it. Candace, he blocked. What did you do to get yourself blocked? You're gonna have to tell me that story off here. Maybe when I see you tomorrow night at the stadium, you can tell me all about that. Now, Candace, that doesn't surprise me because you are known for speaking your mind, right? Which is one of the things I love about you here on this program. So we can take it here, but you do speak your mind, and sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. You know, Tiara says Candace doesn't play. She does not. I can vouch for that, and that's why I love her so much. Okay, Sharon Hemp says he deleted all my. What did you guys do? Gang up on this dude? Y'all leave the man alone. That game's over with. Okay, just that game is over with. Manatee by far and away is a high quality program, high character people. There's always going to be one or two people that, you know, maybe in the heat of the moment or the emotions after a loss like that, some people say things they shouldn't say. That's why I always coach you guys. Well, I should put it that. That's why I always encourage people, especially after a loss, wait 24 hours before you post anything on social media, just to give yourself a chance to calm down. Because once the words leave these lips, you can't take them back. You just can't take them back. All right. Armand says, finished up with his car deal, jumping on now. All right. So Armand's jumping onto the program. Armand,
Hey, I'm doing good, man. Just sealed the deal. You know how it goes, so all is well.
listen, I see the smile on your face. So, you know, that's the smile of an accomplished man, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
man. You know, finishing the day. But yeah, we just sealed the deal. All is well, man. Vikings winning. Uh Dogs winning. You know,
it's a good weekend that extended it into a great week for you.
man, look, I got no complaints, sir. LG, I got no complaints. Had a good birthday. You know, and like I got no complaints whatsoever.
That's fantastic, man. Well, hopefully after tomorrow night, about 10:30 or 11 o'clock, you still will not have any complaints.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have the same smile. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping to have.
Hey, we were just very timely of you to jump on. We were just talking about the defense,
Yes,
and I
sir.
said up front, you know, we've since the start of the season into the off season, we've had a reservation with the 3-3 stack, right?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
after the first 4 games this year, it looks like our defense is finally catching on. They know their assignments. They're not thinking anymore. They're clearly reacting. So read to react. That's what you want from a defense. How would you assess the defense in the first 4 games?
Man, the first 4 games, man, it's like every week they just improve. You know, they are getting more comfortable. They're playing fast, aggressive. It looks like in your post earlier today where Kirby says you know, do simple better. It
Yeah.
looks like they are actually doing simple a whole lot better than what they did last week. Um, you know, that defensive line, while it's only 3 of them down there, man, dogs. All 3 of them are dogs, and they are getting after the quarterback. Um, they're they're not over pursuing. Now, the one
Yeah.
thing I will say that I would like to see them clean up just a little bit is containing. You know, they got to contain. Somebody has to set the edge a little bit. You know, a little bit better than what they've been doing
Yeah.
as we progress, and we this is actually well, they said manatee according to the manatee post. I guess that's the name of
Yeah.
that that publication down there. You know, they said this is the best team we're going to face, and they were absolutely correct so far. But you know, if you watch the game as the game progressed, man, there was a definite difference in talent, and it showed. You know, and the defense, man, they just are playing. Nobody's out of position. They keep testing our corners, going deep.
Yeah.
They're in phase. They are playing the ball how they're supposed to play the ball, and I really have no complaints on the defense. You know, you could always look at the tape and pick apart and say, hey, this here, that there. We know we got to do X, Y, and Z. However, it's one of those things, man, where you look at this team, and you just say, "Job well done." Now it's on to the next.
Absolutely. Now, I was about to talk about the defense as well. Now, You're exactly right. We can, going back and looking at film and highlights, we can always pick apart things that we should have done, would have done differently, that kind of stuff. So what I do instead is look for trends that could repeat themselves or have repeated themselves over several games. And I saw something after watching some of the highlights over. I've noticed a trend though, and I don't know if it's a stunt that we're trying, whatever. But every once in a while, you know, an offense will catch us in the right time when they'll run off tackle to that side that where we have with a three-man front, we've got a defensive tackle, and sometimes he will just purposely take an outside rush, right?
Yeah.
And so when that happens and they catch us with the right play, that tackle will just ride that defensive tackle out and just take him completely out of the play. And that that running back is coming right off that hip. And if you don't have a linebacker to recognize that and step up and fill the gap, we've been burned about 5 times this year when they've caught us with the right play.
And I agree, and that's why I say we got to set the edge, and that's what I mean by setting the edge. As a defensive, I didn't play defensive end, but I did play outside linebacker, and a lot of times, depending on the formation, I have to set the edge, and setting the edge means that I'm pretty much trying to get that guy to a stalemate, and get him to run as far west as possible, or I'm trying to make him to cut back inside to where my help is going to be at.
Right.
So now, like I said, with the 3-3 stack, I'm not as familiar with the assignments as I would be if it was a 4-3 or 3-4 or 4-4. But I got a good feeling football is football, and those gaps are the responsibility of those defensive linemen there, and they gotta control them. So they have to set the edge. They have to set the edge, and they can't. In some cases, you can't. What's the word? You can't just fire off the ball, and go straight to the quarterback, because somebody's going to pick up on that and they're going to expose it. So they're going to have to set the edge, be a little bit more deliberate, or just be patient. Set the edge and be patient, and let the play come to you. So.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, we were talking a little bit about, some of the game stats. Would it surprise you for us to have 555 yards of passing on the season?
No. I'm not surprised.
All right. So it does seem like, with this past game excluded, because we didn't throw the ball very much because I think it was because of a wet night and slick balls. But we've had 42 not completions, but we've had 56 attempts on the season, 42 completions. That's throwing the ball more than I thought we would do, and that's including games where we had it readily in hand. You got young kids coming in, young quarterback not throwing the ball very much, that kind of stuff. So that's basically 2.5 quarters worth of work on average per game. So do you expect that to continue? Do you expect our offense to start, pressing the ball more vertically down the field as we get into region play, or are we going to get more conservative and rely more heavily on our run game?
Well, it seems to be like whatever's working is what we're going to do. Last week it was road dog. The week before that it was we used 12 a lot. And Marvin's is always going to be an integral part of the offense. Yeah. So if we could continue to run the ball as effectively as we have, then the status quo will be there. But I expect us to actually throw the ball a little bit more, moving along. And just by virtue of the games going into the fourth quarter, as actually being a game going into the fourth quarter. So that's what I'm expecting. So, but I still think the ratio, that balance, I think we're with about 55 run, 45 pass right now.
Something like that,
yeah. That's as a coach, I think that's kind of what you want. So.
Yeah, well, actually, it's close to. Yeah, it's actually probably close to 2-1. 2-1. 2 rushes for every 1 pass. So
Okay.
let me ask you something specifically, and that is, I started the show talking about the stellar play by a couple of Ironmen, one in particular, Marvis Parrish, all over the field last week. Road Dog Aleem had a great game as well. As we start to get into region play, do you expect Marvis to have more of a role on the defensive side of the ball, or is it looks like he's been primarily used on the offensive side in multiple different offensive positions. We've used him some on defense, but not as much. You think that transition is going to occur into region play or no?
Well, it really depends on the guys that we got out there right now. So if the guys that you got out there right now are able to hold it down, then you don't really need Marvis to play as much defense. Maybe just come in on certain situations, third and long. But as of right now, we haven't really needed him on defense. And if the corners are holding up, the safeties are holding up, there's no need to put him out there because, like I said, Marvis just might be, as of right now, from what we've seen, the linchpin of this offense. Kind of what makes it goes. When you have Marvis out there, you got Jace out there, you got Aleem, you got the Brinks truck, you got Jalen, you got Sifa. When you got all those athletes on the field at the same time, oh man, it's almost like just pick your poison at that point in time. So me not seeing Marvis on defense as much is actually a relief to me because it's telling me that the kids that we have out there playing are actually able to hold their own.
Sure. Yeah, the reason I asked that is because we haven't really faced very many high quality teams yet. And so as we get into region play, I'm expecting some of these teams to really test our secondary. And I'm thinking that we're probably going to need to start rotating him more into our defensive secondary. So that's what I'm thinking. Now, Travis Hart, along those lines, he poses an interesting statement. I'm going to put it up on the screen. You don't look at it. I'll just read it to you. He says, Kel is going to test how good Lowndes' secondary and DBs are. Now, I stated earlier, Armand, that Kel is primarily a run-first team. Okay? But they do have some really, really good receivers, got some height to them. And what I saw in the first 3 or 4 games that they played was they like to pound the ball. They pound it. And then they will take some shots deep. Kind of reminds me of the Lowndes of old with the wing tee, right? Yeah. But this is not a wing tee team. They just like to pound it, and then they'll take a shot deep with these speedy receivers they have. I think it's going to test the discipline of our safeties more than anything, because a safety is a kind of a hybrid player in my mind. They like to be very, very physical in supporting the run, but they have pass defending responsibilities as well, right? And so those guys, when you see a team run the ball on you all night, they start creeping up to help support the run. And then all of a sudden, offensive coordinator sees that and throws it over the top. That's what I'm looking for tomorrow night, is the discipline of our safeties.
Yeah, and it's like this. Like people say, when it comes to play action, right?
Yeah.
Play action only works if you're able to run the ball.
That's right.
So I'm not gonna say that's the only time it works, but for the most part, when you've been successful at running the ball, and you can show that same look, but then pull it and chunk it deep, that's how you play act. That's how you're gonna get them.
Yeah.
In fact, I think a lot of times when you go back and you look at the film from last year, that's what happened in that Valdosta game, where we got them down. We got them where we want them, and then they run the play action. You got the tight end just all by himself right in the middle of the field. That was a result of play action. So you have to tell your safeties, even your linebackers as well, don't let your eyes deceive you. You
That's
know,
right.
focus on your assignment. This is your assignment. Focus on it. Be where you're supposed to be, and don't, like I said, be patient. Don't be overzealous. If they're able to do that, and like you said, it takes discipline. If they can stay disciplined, it shouldn't be an issue. And I looked at the Kale tape too, and from what I see, they're pretty impressive. Especially compared to what we've seen the last 4 weeks. And
Yeah.
they got some speed, they got some size, and you're right, that height. That's what concerns me the most. Is that
Yeah,
height?
well, you just said size, so I'm going to read some of these metrics to you as far as their offensive line goes. Joining us on the phone is our other super fan, Chase Garto. Chase, it sounds like we had a disappointing ending to that middle school game.
Yeah, it wasn't what we wanted, but it took everything Valdosta had to beat them boys.
Well, that's okay as long as these kids get developed up. I can live with that. Chase, let me read some of these metrics to you as far as the Cal offensive lineman goes. Let's see. You got a left tackle 6'3", 275. Guard next to him 6'2", 285. The center's at 6'3", 285. The right guard, I couldn't catch his weight, but he's well over 6 feet. Right tackle 6'2", 280. Much bigger offensive line than we've across the board. You know, Manatee had some pretty good size as well, but not every lineman they had was big. But Kale's going to present a different challenge to us that we haven't seen this year, and that is a pretty large offensive line that works well together, and they're pretty athletic. So what are you looking for tomorrow night, Chase, when we're facing that kind of front?
I want to see if our defensive ends are as good as we think they are right now, because those boys can cut through cut through an offensive line pretty quick.
Yeah.
They're getting better every week. Our DBs are pretty much keeping everything in front of them, which is a testament to Norwood and his changes he's making, which, you know, they never really let anybody get behind them last week. So, you know, I was impressed with the defense last week. I like the way that it looked apparently like they switched Lorenzo Munitin into more of a spy with that quarterback moving as much as he was, which was a great adjustment by Carter and his staff. So I mean, they're making good adjustments on the fly.
Yeah.
It's just going to be real interesting to see if we can maintain the physicality up front like we've had through the first few games.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna need a complete game tomorrow night, including from our special teams. We had a couple of special teams, well, one in particular that I can think of. Special teams mess up last week on a field goal attempt. We gotta clean that kind of stuff up. But you know, we got to continue. You know, our kicker Aiden Andrews has done a fantastic job this year putting balls into the end zone. He's going to have to continue to do that tomorrow night. They're averaging, if we don't put a ball in the end zone, their kick returner is averaging 36 yards on a kickoff return. And so the kid's got some speed. And so special teams is going to have to come to play tomorrow night. You know, they've got about 640 passing yards on the season, 465. Now, this is one person. Quintarius Gibson, their RB1. He's got about 465 yards on the season. And so if you got 4 games, that's averaging over 100 yards a game.
About 120.
Yeah. So that's pretty impressive. So, Chase, let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. You know, Kale hadn't given up very many points. They entered this game, I think, 3-1. What do you expect our offense to do tomorrow night? Are we going to have a balanced attack? You expect more passing, more running? What are you looking for?
I think it's solely going to depend on the weather. If the weather's clear and we're able to do what Lowndes really likes to do, and that is open the field up and spread the field out a little bit, especially with Jason there at quarterback.
Yeah.
I expect them to add another wrinkle to the offense that we haven't seen yet, because it seems like every week we get a new wrinkle. Every week we get a new wrinkle. That was the most I've seen Aiden Sifa involved last week. That's the most I've seen Aiden Sifa involved since the first part of last season. So,
Sure.
I really, and I'm a big fan of using the tight end. Big fan of a tight end because he's a mismatch.
Absolutely.
So, I want to see them use Aiden Sifa to attack those linebackers because he's a problem for a linebacker to cover.
Gotcha.
Jalen Carter, Mr. Waffle House, get him involved early. And of course, you got to get Marvis involved. I don't care if it's slinging it out in the flats. I don't care if it's a sweep play or something. You got to get that man involved in the offense.
I have been speaking of Jalen. I've been kind of surprised that we haven't gotten him more involved in the offense, whether we're talking the running game or the passing game.
I'm thinking it's more because when you watch film, even the guys from Manatee, when we had them on the show last week,
You think they're taking him away?
They said that when you watch game film on Lowndes, he's one of the first people that jumps out at you.
Okay.
How talented he is, how well he runs his routes, how he is consistently Mr. Waffle House. He can get open, especially in one-on-one situations. So, yeah, I think most defenses are targeting him and trying to take him out of the equation, forcing Jace to move on in his progression and in his reads, which I have seen Jace. That's one of the things I really watch for as a progression of a young quarterback is how he goes through his reads. Does he force the ball where it doesn't need to be? Other than the one bad pass last week, which I just think that was just, I don't necessarily say a bad pass.
Yeah.
It was more of a desperation throw. But outside of that, Jace hasn't put the ball in jeopardy. So he goes through his progressions. He generally 99% of the time throws the ball where only his receiver can catch it. It's either his receiver or none at all, which I really like. That is a great thing to have at the QB position, especially at this level. You want a quarterback who doesn't put the ball in jeopardy, and Jace doesn't do that at all. I like the running game. The offensive line, hats off to those guys. Big round of applause to those guys. They have been doing a great job up front. The holes are there. Our guys are finding them. That offensive line has looked night and day different from last year. They've put on some size. They've really done some good things. It looks like they've worked really well on footwork, hand placement, hip power, things like that you need from your offensive line. It looks like Carter and his staff really spent some time working on those things during the offseason and during fall camps. So and it's paid dividends and big props to that offensive line.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to not borrow, but I'm going to tie two thoughts together. You and Candace on the comments. She was talking about, we were talking about Jalen a while ago, and she made a comment that Jalen is doing a lot of blocking, which was true. And then your comment of the offensive line seems to be coming along much improved. Guys, one of the things that I enjoy doing is when I edit photos. Now, let me make a distinction. I don't enjoy editing photos because Chase taking over primary still camera duties this year gives me about 5,000 to 6,000 photos a week to go through. Now, I'm kidding, but not by much. So when I edit these photos, one of the things that I enjoy doing is looking at the game within the game, and you can see that in the background because Chase, you'll vouch for this. When you look through that viewfinder to take a shot, you're focused on just the subject that you're pointing the camera to. But what shows up in the picture is what happens behind that subject, right? And so when I edit photos, I look at what's behind him and I see all this stuff that actually happens during the game that I didn't notice during the game. And so one of the things that I've really noticed all season long, whether if we're locked on a running back with a ball or wide receiver after a catch, is the blocking. so much more improved. I mean, we're going on and on about Aleem and Road Dogg having a great game last week. Marvis having a great night last week. None of that would have been possible if you didn't have guys like Jalen Carter out on the perimeter making a key block to spring Road Dogg. Marvis Parrish was out there with him. Yeah, those two guys, Road Dogg, Marvis Parrish, leading the way, creating a gigantic hole, and Aleem just ran right through it, right down the sideline towards you and Armand for an 80-yard touchdown. Broke the game open, right? And so that happened all night long, and we see that consistently in the first 4 weeks. Very proud of this offensive line. So, Chase, I'm glad you brought that up.
And you know what's funny? And I'm so mad at myself because I was looking down at my phone trying to set everything up. And I look up, next thing I know, Road Dogg's running right past me. And I'm like, no. Right? And sometimes I have to catch myself from being a fan. That's the biggest thing. I gotta stop myself from being a fan because I'll get so involved in it, and I'm like, oh, it's right there, it's coming. And the next thing I know, boom, I missed it. So
it happens, man. It happens. Late in the game last week, Bryce Harris, one of the guys with the radio crew, after a big hit, he comes running down there and says, "Hey, did you catch that? Did you catch that shot?" And I had to admit to him, I said, "Man, I'm sorry. We were just talking about the game." Sometimes we just get caught up in being a fan as well, right? And we just miss the big shot.
Man, I'm telling you, that's that's the hardest part is like not being a fan. Because at the end of the day, you call us super fans for a reason, right? I think we're all super fans who support this program. But yeah, it happens. And so this week I'm going to do my best to try and get not to miss as many of those big plays from happening.
Gotcha. All right, so y'all are going to have to help me out. Candace just addressed a comment at me, and I have no idea what she's talking about. She said, FYI, LG, the kids call them cellies. What does that mean? I'm 50. Candace, you got to remember, I'm 54 years old. I'm stuck in my ways. I'm used to talking a certain way. I don't understand. What is a celly? Something about a cell phone. So what does that mean? I'll read my previous comment. Now I got to go back. It's, celebrations.
Okay.
Oh,
I get the
man, I was
celebration.
way off. I thought it had something to do with a cell phone. It's celebrations.
I get the celebrations. I do get the celebrations. Now that's if I don't get nothing else, I'm gonna get the celebration.
Yeah. I will tell you though, it has been a pleasant surprise because it's no secret after that scrimmage against TCC, I openly challenged a team that we need to see more senior leadership. We didn't see that during the scrimmage, and lo and behold, this team has really stepped up. We've seen seniors, we've seen underclassmen. This team is really coming together and gelling, and really, really pleased to see it.
Oh yeah, I'm like in the leadership. The kids, they're having fun. That's what it is. They're having a whole lot of fun out there. And I think their seniors are realizing, hey, this is my last ride, as they say, last ride, class 25, last ride.
Yeah.
I think they've realized that, and I just think they are doing everything they can to maximize pretty much to seize the moment. Right.
Absolutely. So guys, we got a big chore on our hands tomorrow night. I think this is going to be our first true test. Manatee was a good warm-up, to be honest with you. I was expecting to beat them big, and we did. This team, Kale, has the ability to hurt your feelings if you're not careful. So they've got a big offensive line. They've got a very good running back. Their quarterback is an excellent quarterback. Kid named Caleb Narcisse, I think, something like that. They've got three stellar defensive players as well. Middle linebacker Braden Rouse, Luca Finelli, I think, is a DB if I'm not mistaken, and defensive end Alex Jean or John. So be on the lookout for those 3 players. They're going to bring the hammer tomorrow night. I think our offense is up to the task, but Kel is a pretty high quality team on both offense and defense, and they can hurt you in the special teams game as well. Like I said earlier, we got to get the balls into the end zone on the kickoffs. If we don't, kids got to stay in their lanes, make good tackles tomorrow night because their kickoff returner is a very, very good one. All right, guys, we're going to have to wrap things up. Thought we would do this and talk about the standings so far and how Region 1-6A is doing. Now, obviously, none of these games have mattered so far as region standings goes. But this is how the teams have done overall. Camden is 4-0. Lowndes is 4-0. Valdosta is 4-0. Valdosta had a pretty impressive win last week down in the Tampa area against Jesuit High, something like that, Jesuit Tampa. Richmond Hill is 3-0. Colquitt is 2-1. Tift County is 2-2. So Camden this week will be at home against Spruce Creek, Florida. We are going to be at home against Kell. It's homecoming tomorrow night. They're going to be a little bit of a distraction for the team. Valdosta is going to be on the road for the second week in a row, traveling up to the metro area to take on South Gwinnett. Richmond Hill is going to be home against Wayne County. Colquitt will be hosting Lee County. Keep an eye on Moultrie tomorrow night because that is going to be a knockdown drag football game. Tift County will be hosting Houston County. Houston's another very good 5A team. I expect Houston is going to win that game tomorrow night.
Quick question: is that the same? We played North Gwinnett, right? Is that who we played? North Gwinnett.
Say that again.
Did we play North Gwinnett or South Gwinnett? Who did we play?
We played Central Gwinnett.
Central. Okay. All right.
Yeah, out of all the Gwinnett teams called Gwinnett, North Gwinnett is the better one. Central is probably number 2 right now, and South Gwinnett's not good at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the top program in that area, in that county is probably Grayson.
Gotcha.
In Gwinnett County. Okay, so guys, we're going to wrap it up with that. So I'm trying to debate whether or not to put you guys. I think Chase was having connectivity issues. We couldn't hear him there, so he might be having some cell phone connection problems. What do you think outcome is going to be tomorrow night, Armand?
My outcome is always Lowndes by 50.
You said that every single game this year.
Every single game, Vikes by 50. I'm saying it. So the Vikings win by 50. Don't be surprised because they absolutely can do it. But I will give this. I don't think Kell is the type of team to give up 50 points. What's the most points they've given up all year? Like 20 something?
Yeah, hold on. Let me tell you for sure. Okay, so they have given up mostly 21 points.
Yeah. So they have a stout defense. So I'm expecting this game. If I got a true prediction, and it's just not the homer in me coming out, I'm going to say Lowndes 28, Kell 17.
Okay. I'm going to say Lowndes 32. No, I'm sorry, 35, and Kell 17.
Okay.
I'm expecting another big win.
Got it.
Now, if Kell gets that running game cranked up and we can't answer for it, then it could be a long night. But I don't think we're going to run into that issue tomorrow night. So Lowndes 35, Kell 17 is what I'm going with. If Chase were here, I would ask him as well. So Errol Fender says Lowndes 28-14, Travis Hart, Lowndes by 10. Jason Burnett is expecting a big Lowndes win. He says Lowndes by 28. Gary West, Lowndes 35, Kell 24. That sounds like a game going late into the fourth quarter. Lowndes pulls it out. So could be. Yeah. So we got predictions all over the place tonight. But you know what will answer the question for us? If you guys show up en masse tomorrow night at the Concrete Palace so we can all watch it live and in action together as good Lowndes fans are meant to do. So guys, Armand, I'm going to give you the last word.
This is what I want to say. Thank you to everybody who gave me a birthday shout out. it was really overwhelming. Even when I was at the game, they were like, "Hey, happy birthday, Professor!" A couple of fans. So thank you all for that. I really appreciate it, and thank you all for continuing to come here every week. Because I guess you guys know what quality is when we, this is by far. I'm a toot our own home. By far the best high school football show that you can possibly tune into, and it's all thanks to you guys. You guys make it work. And we're just grateful and thankful. I think I speak for everybody when I say that you all are a part of the Viking Nation. So with that being
Absolutely.
said, go Vikings.
Absolutely. Well, not much to say after that, man. So listen, guys, on behalf of Chase Garnto, Armand Rashad, I'm Larry Godwin. You guys have been watching another great episode of the Viking Nation Live. As always, have a great week and go Vikings.
Go Vikings.